Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, which also translates to, in the name of Allah, the most graceful, the most merciful. To our distinguished guests of ladies and gentlemen and delegates from these many countries, a very good morning to you. And we hope we can have your undivided attention. إلى حضورنا الكريم نتمنى نحصل على انتباهكم لبضع لحظات. Distinguished guests and dear delegates, we are about to commence our 13th Ministerial Conference brought to us by the WTO. However, our sign to commence will be your collective attention by taking your seats. Only then we can take the cue and we can commence, of course, this promising gathering of ours. حضورنا الكريم، نحن على وشك بدء أعمال هذا المؤتمر. إشارة البدء ستكون أخذ مقاعدكم وبعدها نتوكل على الله. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, our cue to start the proceedings of today's conference will be you taking all of your seats, and only then we can commence. Good morning, everyone.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Ambassador Santiago Wells, the Director of the World Trade Organization Council and Trade Negotiations Committee Division and Secretary of the 30th WTO Ministerial Conference. He will be facilitating the proceedings of this opening session.
His Excellency, President Azali Assoumani of the Union of the Comoros. His Excellency, President José Manuel Ramos Horta of the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste. His Excellency, Dr. Thani bin Ahmed Al Sayudi, Minister of State for Foreign Trade of the United Arab Emirates and the Chairperson of the 13th session of the WTO Ministerial Conference. The MC13 Vice Chairs, His Excellency Honorable Todd McClay, Minister for Agriculture, Forestry, Hunting and Fishing and Trade of New Zealand. His Excellency Mr. Jorge Rivera Staff, Minister of Trade and Industry of Panama. And His Excellency Mr. Luke McLaurin-Barga Atangana, Minister of Trade of Cameroon. Her Excellency Dr. Atalia Lesiba Molokome, Permanent Representative of the Republic of Botswana to the United Nations and other international organizations in Geneva, and General Council Chairperson. Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the opening session of the 13th WTO Ministerial Conference in Abu Dhabi. Marhaba. Our 13th session takes place as we mark the 30th anniversary since the establishment of the WTO. Let us give a round of applause for our MC13 host, the United Arab Emirates, for their hospitality and warm welcome to the MC13 participants. Our opening session will have 4 segments. Let me walk you through each of them. During the first segment, we will hear the welcome remarks of the MC13 chairperson. This will be followed by the opening remarks and formal transmittal of work by the General Council chairperson. Thereafter, the MC13 chairperson will propose that the Ministerial Conference adopts the MC13 agenda. We will then proceed to the second segment, which is the ceremonial part of the opening session. We will then move to the third segment, the accession ceremonies. This will include the MC13 chairperson proposing that the Ministerial Conference adopts the report of the Working Party and the draft decision on the accessions of Comoros and Timor-Leste, and approves the draft protocols of accession of Comoros and Timor-Leste. The presidents of Comoros and Timor-Leste will address the Ministerial Conference. Congratulatory remarks will be provided by the MC13 chairperson and the Director General. This will immediately be followed by the signing ceremonies of the protocols of accession of Comoros and Timor-Leste. We then transition to the final segment of the opening session, which is the ceremony for the deposit of instruments of acceptance of the Fisheries Subsidies Agreement. During this segment, the Director General and the MC13 chairperson will provide congratulatory remarks. Thereafter, each minister or head of delegation who would deposit instruments of acceptance today will be called to the stage one by one. After all of the individual deposits, the ministers or heads of delegation who have just deposited and all other ministers or heads of delegations of members who have previously deposited their instrument will be invited to come up to the stage for a fish family photo. At the end of the ceremony, the MC13 chairperson will officially close the opening session of the 13th WTO Ministerial Conference. As you can see, we have a full morning ahead of us. Given this, we seek ministers' indulgence not to seek to take the floor during any of the segments. We also request everyone to remain seated, turn your phones to silent mode, and avoid taking pictures during the session, and use the headphones in case you will need interpretation. With these words, let us now turn to the first segment of the opening session. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and privilege to invite His Excellency Dr. Thani bin Ahmed Al Seyudi to provide his welcoming remarks as the chairperson of the 13th WTO Ministerial Conference.
Thank you, Ambassador. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Your Excellency, Dr. Ngozi, the WTO Director General, Your Excellency, Dr. Atalia, the WTO General Council Chairperson, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and very good morning. It is with a great pleasure to welcome you all to the United Arab Emirates for the 13th session of the Ministerial Conference of the World Trade Organizations here in Abu Dhabi. As the chairman of this very important conference, it is a privilege to address such distinguished guests, and it has been a pleasure to work with you all in preparation for this moment. Over the past 3 decades, the WTO has been a global safety net, offering stability, transparency, and predictability to the international trade. And the WTO has contributed to raising living standards, improving employment opportunities, and enabling the expansion of trade in goods and services. We in the UAE can bear witness to this. Through international trade, we have managed to rapidly transform our nation into global and regional trade hub. Our economic transformations over the past 50 years is evidence of the opportunities that come with the international trade and of its enormous potential to improve people's life. This is why I'm particularly glad that today we welcome two least developed countries, Comoros and Timor-Leste, to WTO membership. We know that many others, including from Arab worlds, eagerly await their turn to take their due share of the opportunities that WTO membership offers. The WTO remains a powerful force in countering the current unilateral protectionism and discriminations. It is an important part of the global efforts to attain the UN Sustainable Development Goals and to ensure an inclusive, equitable, multilateral, rules-based trading system. 30 years since the establishment of WTO, the world economy and the international trade landscape have significantly evolved. Technological developments and exchange of information and ideas have been driving the global economy forward. The services sector continues to be a key driver of global trade, but traditional sectors like agriculture remain critical for all countries, small, medium, and high, and large. However, the traditional sectors and traditional assumptions of which WTO has been anchored cannot stand on their own anymore. The evolving circumstances of negotiated areas and the fast-changing environments we live in demands a new thinking. The growth of the WTO membership and its diverse priority requires a dynamic approach from the WTO, one that respects the rules that bind us all as WTO members, but also enables the WTO to advance and be forward-looking to achieve our collective goals. Excellencies, the multilateral trading system with the WTO at its core is at a critical juncture. It is confronting many challenges. We have witnessed shifting of priorities in addressing climate change and sustainability issues. Many countries are experiencing debt and cost of living pressures, food security, and slow recovery from COVID-19 pandemic. Equally, persistent development challenges and geopolitical tension continue to impact lives and livelihood as well as international trade. This 13th WTO Ministerial Conference can be the launchpad for a future of a global trade and reformed WTO that is prepared to address current and future trade challenges. We can and must achieve this. We have seen the work that our negotiators have done to prepare our engagement that will be formally transmitted to us. Let me take a moment to express my deep appreciation to Dr. Ngozi, the Director General of WTO, and Her Excellency Dr. Atalia, the General Council Chairperson, for their tireless efforts, together with all of you, to prepare the draft Abu Dhabi MC13 package. Excellencies, colleagues, and friends, we in the UAE are determined to make this ministerial conference a success. And as chairperson, I'm fully committed to creating an environment of comfort for all delegates to conduct negotiations freely, frankly, and constructively in the upcoming days. I now ask all of you to show the world that WTO is alive and well and is fully capable to deliver results that matter to people everywhere. We also need to show through the outcomes of this conference that trade and the multilateral system can and will contribute to development. We have the unique opportunity to collectively shape the future of trade. It rests in each of our hands. Let us seize this moment to shape it wisely and ensure a prosperous future for all countries. Welcome to UAE and looking forward to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Al-Sayudi. Let me now invite the Chairperson of the WTO General Council, Her Excellency Dr. Atalia Lesiba Molokome, to address the Ministerial Conference.
Thank you, Ambassador Wills. Your Excellency, Mr. Asumani, President of the Union of the Comoros, Your Excellency, Dr. Jose Ramos Horta, President of the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste, Your Excellency, Dr. Thani bin Ahmed Al Zaudi, Minister of State for Foreign Trade of the UAE and Chairperson of the 13th session of the Ministerial Conference, Excellencies, Vice Chairpersons of the 13th Ministerial Conference, Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, Distinguished Director General, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, distinguished delegates and guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is my distinct honor to address you at the opening ceremony of this 13th session of the WTO Ministerial Conference. On behalf of the WTO membership, I would like to express our deep gratitude for the warm welcome and hospitality shown to us by the authorities of the UAE and its people since our arrival on your beautiful shores. Our particular appreciation goes to His Excellency Dr. Thani bin Ahmed Al Zaudi, who's just addressed you, Minister of State for Foreign Trade of the UAE, for chairing this conference. Let me stress, Excellencies, that the UAE's offer to host MC13 and the efforts to ensure its success are a testament to the value the UAE attaches to the multilateral trading system and to international cooperation. Our work, or rather your work, Honorable Ministers, over the coming days towards our shared objective and responsibility of a successful 13th WTO Ministerial Conference is more important than ever. In particular, among the growing economic uncertainties and geopolitical tensions, we must collectively ensure that the WTO is fit to respond to the challenges of today. These coming days will be crucially important, and I very much hope that members will seize this opportunity to discuss, exchange views, and attain further convergence with a view to providing the much-needed direction to ensure a strong and positive trajectory for the organization. Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, it is therefore my great honor to transmit formally to yourselves for ministerial consideration the results and status of the work conducted in the intense preparatory period leading to this conference. I'm pleased to report that my colleagues, your ambassadors and representatives, have worked hard since MC12 and have further intensified their work over the last weeks and days in Geneva. I was heartened by the collective resolve to deliver, and I take this opportunity to commend the efforts of your ambassadors and representatives, as well as their teams in Geneva. Despite these efforts, some differences remain. The results of their work will be before you in different stages of finalization for consideration and action. Let me start by presenting to you the annual reports on WTO activities. These reports capture the work that has been undertaken in the organization, including the work that has been undertaken with respect to mandates that ministers provided at previous ministerial conferences. In this context, let me highlight the factual report, and I quote, on follow-up work to the ministerial declaration on the WTO response to the COVID-19 pandemic and preparedness for future pandemics, end of quote, as well as the state of play report of the efforts undertaken since MC12 to improve the daily functioning of WTO councils, committees, and negotiating bodies. On WTO reform in particular, let me recap the immense effort undertaken by members to fulfill ministers' commitment at MC12 to work towards necessary reform of the WTO in all its functions. My predecessor in the role of GC chairperson and I have reported to members on WTO reform work at every regular meeting of the General Council, including on the informal meetings on WTO reform. These informal meetings focus on development, the deliberative function, and institutional matters, as well as trade and industrial policy. At the senior officials meeting last October 2023, members also discussed the subject of trade and environmental sustainability. In addition, members have tabled a number of reform-related proposals with innovative ideas and suggestions, which have been discussed at the General Council and its subsidiary bodies. I wish to take this opportunity to commend all members for their hard work and commitment in this regard. Let me also, at this point, and with the overall WTO reform efforts in mind, positively note that in July 2023, members successfully concluded the 7th appraisal of the Trade Policy Review Mechanism, otherwise known as the TPRM. Specifically, members agreed on a set of forward-looking measures to strengthen the TPRM as a transparency tool while making trade policy reviews more efficient and less burdensome. On dispute settlement reform, the chairperson of the DSB provided a report to the 14 February special meeting of the General Council, in which he recalled ministers' commitment at MC12 to conduct discussions with a view to having a fully and well-functioning dispute settlement system accessible to all members by 2024. In this regard, I refer you to the draft ministerial decision on dispute settlement reform, which is before you for consideration. Also in this context, I note that there is a dedicated working session envisaged in the conference program. Excellencies, members have also engaged on other follow-up from MC12, as contained in paragraph 8 of the MC12 outcome document, related to the work on the decisions in favor of LDCs on services waiver, preferential rules of origin, and DFQF. I reported on this work in each regular session of the General Council, including most recently the February 14 special meeting of the General Council. My report was subsequently circulated. At the special GC meeting as well, we heard from the TRIPS Council chairperson that since MC12, members have also engaged on paragraph 8 of the ministerial decision on the TRIPS agreement with regard to the extension to cover the production and supply of COVID-19 diagnostics and therapeutics. In her report to the 14 February special meeting of the General Council, the TRIPS Council chairperson informed members that despite efforts, consensus could not be reached. At the same time, she noted that all members supported a forward-looking agenda to discuss IP and pandemic preparedness in an effort which will continue in the TRIPS Council beyond this conference. I'm pleased to inform you, Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, that in October 2023, on the margins of the WTO senior officials meeting, the General Council adopted a decision on the extension of unilateral duty-free and quota-free preferences in favor of countries graduated from the LDC category. Since then, work has continued intensively on Annex 2 of the LDC group proposal related to, and I quote, a smooth transition package in favor of members graduating from the LDC category, as we heard from the CTD chairperson at the 14 February special meeting of the General Council. After that meeting, further consultations were undertaken with delegations, and I'm pleased to report that there appears to be broad convergence on the draft decision on WTO smooth transition support measures in favor of countries graduated from the LDC category. Excellencies, this positive momentum may allow you, the ministers, to formally adopt this decision at this conference. Also at the special General Council meeting of 14 February, we heard from the chairperson of the SPS committee with regard to the report delivered under his own responsibility in view of paragraph 10 of the requested follow-up from the MC12 SPS declaration on responding to modern SPS challenges. Let me also recall that earlier in December, the General Council agreed to transmit to this ministerial conference the draft decision on the work program on small economies, which is before ministers for adoption. On another positive note, the accession working parties of the Comoros and Timor-Leste completed their work earlier this year, and the accession packages of these two LDCs will be before you, the ministers, for formal action in a moment. This is another encouraging step towards achieving the organization's aim of universal membership, and in doing so, facilitating the integration of LDCs into the multilateral trading system. It would be remiss of me, Excellencies, not to mention members' tireless efforts in Geneva on other areas, where some draft texts are before you for your consideration and finalization. I shall only touch upon these briefly, as more detailed reports on the state of play in these respective areas will be provided at the scene-setting session tomorrow morning. On the negotiations, Her Excellency the Director General, as Chairperson of the Trade Negotiations Committee, has provided reports on the various negotiating issues to each regular session of the General Council. Her most recent report to the February 14 special GC meeting was accompanied by relevant updates by the chairpersons of the negotiating bodies. In addition, chairpersons of relevant negotiating bodies also circulated written reports. The report and various draft texts demonstrate the immense efforts that members continue to commit to delivering outcomes on these crucially important negotiating issues. These matters are before you, Honorable Ministers, and will be taken up in the dedicated working sessions over the course of the conference. On MC13 related outcomes under the General Council and its subsidiary bodies, let me highlight the following points. On the draft Abu Dhabi Ministerial Declaration, this process was launched by myself in my capacity as Chairperson of the General Council last year in November, with the circulation of a zero draft outline or skeleton. The document that is before you at this conference is the result of a highly interactive, long and arduous process that has required delegations to listen to each other, understand different perspectives, and find room to compromise. The work has culminated in the circulation of 24-paragraph draft declaration. An explanatory note, you will have seen, was also issued as an addendum, which also comprises draft language in tabular format that at the time we left Geneva did not enjoy sufficient support to be reflected in the draft declaration. Honorable Ministers, as you know, 2 working sessions of this conference will be dedicated to this draft declaration and will provide the relevant space to resolve the remaining issues. I therefore call upon members to demonstrate the much-needed pragmatism and flexibility to finalize this declaration. Needless to say, arriving at a consensual declaration will demonstrate members' shared commitment to the objectives of this organization. I might add that it would also send a strong message to the world of the WTO's continued relevance in these uncertain times. I will make a detailed report on the process and status of the draft declaration at the scene-setting session tomorrow morning, and we will focus on the pending issues in the 2 dedicated working sessions over the coming days. In this regard, let me also emphasize that I look forward to supporting the MC13 chairperson and His Excellency Minister Mmusi Kgafela of Botswana in finalizing this effort. Let me also say a few words on the work program on e-commerce. Members held a series of thematic dedicated discussions on several identified topics under the leadership of facilitator Ambassador Usha Dwaka Kanabadi of Mauritius. The topics were consumer protection, the digital divide, legal and regulatory frameworks, digital trade facilitation and facilitation of electronic transactions, digital industrialization, and e-commerce related technology transfer. In addition, 3 dedicated discussions focused on the moratorium, pursuant to the MC12 decision to intensify discussions on its scope, definition, and impact. The work program on electronic commerce was also discussed in all regular sessions of the General Council, and the facilitator made regular reports as reflected in the annual reports of the General Council and its relevant subsidiary bodies. In December 2023, members started consideration of text-based proposals for a draft ministerial decision. 4 proposals were received. They share some common elements with regard to the work under the work program. Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, the main divergence relates to whether or not the moratorium should be extended. Members have engaged in different configurations, including amongst the proponents. Despite these efforts, they could not agree on a single text for a draft ministerial decision. Consequently, All 4 draft decisions are before you, Honorable Ministers, for your consideration. In this regard, let me also recall the facilitator's report delivered to the special meeting of the General Council on the 14th of February this year. Excellencies, you would have seen the dedicated working session on this matter, and I very much hope that this ministerial conference will enable members to find a mutually acceptable solution. Likewise, another moratorium is set to expire at this session of the ministerial conference, the one related to TRIPS non-violation and situation complaints. At MC12, the ministers directed the TRIPS Council to continue its examination of the scope and modalities for TRIPS non-violation and situation complaints, and agreed that in the meantime, members would not initiate such complaints under the TRIPS agreement. The TRIPS Council considered the matter at its regular meetings since MC12, but did not reach a final agreement on its recommendations. The TRIPS Council chairperson has circulated a draft recommendation to extend the moratorium until MC14 for members' consideration. You, Honorable Ministers, may therefore also need to consider this issue in the course of this conference. Let me also draw your attention to a draft ministerial declaration on strengthening regulatory cooperation to reduce technical barriers to trade. At the special meeting of the General Council on 14 February, I took note that the proposal enjoyed widespread support among the WTO membership, and that pending one reservation, this draft declaration could be adopted at this conference. Since then, I'm delighted to report that good progress has been made and that this declaration can be adopted by you, the ministers, at this conference. This is a very positive development. I should also note that members have been active in tabling proposals on other matters, which have been discussed in the General Council and its subsidiary bodies. I understand that proponents will continue their outreach in an attempt to build convergence. As I conclude, Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, Director General, let me assure you of my unwavering support as Chairperson of the General Council to work towards our shared objective and responsibility for a successful 13th WTO Ministerial Conference. And I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ambassador. With work from Geneva. Thank you, Ambassador. With work from Geneva now formally transmitted to the Ministerial Conference, let me draw your attention to the provisional agenda for the Ministerial Conference and documents WT/MIN/24/W/1. In doing so, I would like to note that the draft text have been discussed in Geneva during the MC13 preparatory phase. Abu Dhabi Ministerial Declaration, as well as all members' proposals, remain on the table for the Ministers' considerations and may be taken up under Item 2 of the agenda concerning action by Ministers. We will also shortly take up under Item 2 of the agenda the accession of Comoros and Timor-Leste. With this understanding, I propose that the agenda is adopted. Thank you. The agenda is adopted. I now refer to the modalities of the 13th session of the WTO Ministerial Conference and document WT/MIN24/INF/9 Rev 1. This provides the official program of our conference and explanations of each session. Let me take this opportunity to thank the 3 vice chairs of the Ministerial Conference who will assist me during the next few days. His Excellency Honorable Mr. Todd, Minister of Trade and Export of New Zealand, who is also the facilitator for the work program and electronic commerce. His Excellency Mr. Luke, Minister of Trade of Cameroon, His Excellency Mr. Jorge, Minister of Industry and Commerce from Panama, who is also facilitator for the ministerial discussion on trade and inclusion. It is with a great honor to share this task with you all. I also thank all of the minister facilitators who have agreed to assist us in moving forward in various areas on the table during the conference. Her Excellency Ms. Rabika, Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry of Kenya, who is a facilitator for agriculture. His Excellency Mr. Espen, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Norway, who is the Minister Facilitator for Dispute Settlement Reform. His Excellency the Honorable Mr. Kerry, MB, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Barbados, who is the Minister Facilitator for Development. His Excellency Mr. Martin, Permanent Secretary of State of Iceland, who is the Minister Facilitator for Fisheries Subsidies. I likewise thank ministers who have agreed to assist with the convergence building sessions as needed. His Excellency Mr. Musomi, Minister of Trade and Industry of Botswana, who I have requested to assist me with the draft of Abu Dhabi Ministerial Declaration. Her Excellency Ms. Mary, Minister of Small Businesses, Export Promotion and International Trade of Canada. His Excellency Mr. Manuel, Minister of Trade of Costa Rica. His Excellency Mr. Manish, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Regional Integration and International Trade of Mauritius. His Excellency Mr. Qais, Minister of Commerce, Industry and Investments Promotion of Oman. And His Excellency Mr. Lito, Minister of Trade Negotiations of Samoa, and His Excellency Mr. Kim, Minister of Trade and Industry of Singapore, and His Excellency Ambassador Dacio, Permanent Representatives to the WTO of Honduras. Again, thank you all to all the ministers, facilitators, the Director General, and I looking forward to work with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Al-Sayudi, MC13 Chairperson. At this juncture, we invite everyone to remain seated as we prepare for the second segment of this opening session, the ceremonial part of the opening session.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, we appreciate your patience. We are now standing by for the arrival of His Highness, and we request you to kindly remain seated in preparation for that moment. Thank you very much. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, making his way to the ICC Hall is His Highness Sheikh Khalid bin Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, the Chairman of the Executive Council. And now, distinguished guests, we rise for the national anthem of the United Arab Emirates.
Yeah.
The story of the United Arab Emirates is a story of trade. For centuries, a ceaseless flow of goods, people, and ideas has connected the Arabian Peninsula with the world. In the early 16th century, the spice routes bridged east and west through the trade of nutmeg, pepper, and other valuable commodities. By the 1800s, the region's principal source of wealth was pearls. The port cities of Abu Dhabi, Dubai, and Sharjah began to flourish as the industry attracted traders from the region. In 1958, the Emirates found itself in possession of another prized resource, oil, and it marked the beginning of a new chapter in the country's history. On December 2nd, 1971, the United Arab Emirates was founded, an ambitious nation ready to take its place in the world. Emerging industries such as steel, aluminum, and petrochemicals are supported by new ports and airports, enabling the UAE to join the GCC Free Trade Area, which was implemented in 1983. Then, on April 10th, 1996, the UAE secured its membership of the World Trade Organization. The belief in trade as a key driver of growth and economic diversification continues to underpin the country's vision, as it embraces sectors such as logistics, tourism, finance, technology, renewable energy, and healthcare. Today, the UAE is a global logistics hub, home to the 9th busiest container port in the world. It is also among the top 5 re-exporters of major commodities such as rice, tea, and coffee. In 2023, the nation's non-oil foreign trade, including services, surpassed $950 billion for the first time. Now, in 2024, the UAE hosts the 13th Ministerial Conference of the World Trade Organization. The UAE is determined to play its part in fostering a new era of exchange and help deliver new opportunities for every nation.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, which also translates to, in the name of Allah, the most graceful, the most merciful. Your Highness, Sheikh Khalid bin Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, Chairman of the Executive Council. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, may the peace of Allah be upon you all, and welcome to the 13th WTO Ministerial Conference Abu Dhabi for this year 2024 that has a very beautiful slogan, which is delivering for people through trade. Now, thank you very much for that. A great audience of delegates, we must say. But let's get to the here and now. Distinguished guests, now our first remarks are going to be relayed to you in the Arabic language, and therefore we kindly request you to have your translation device ready on the go in preparation for that moment. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, let us get to the first honor of all honors. Please welcome with me the host country remarks, as it will be relayed to you by His Excellency Dr. Thani bin Ahmed Al-Ziyudi, the Minister of State for Foreign Trade of the United Arab Emirates, Chairperson of the Ministerial Conference of the WTO. Let's give him a welcome.
سمو الشيخ خالد بن محمد بن زايد آل نهيان ولي عهد أبو ظبي، رئيس المجلس التنفيذي لإمارة أبو ظبي، فخامة غزالي عثمان رئيس جمهورية القمر المتحدة الشقيقة، فخامة خوزيه راموس هورتا رئيس جمهورية تيمور الشرقية الصديقة، أصحاب المعالي والسعادة، معالي الدكتورة نغوزي المديرة العامة لمنظمة التجارة العالمية، الحضور الكريم، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أرحب بكم جميعاً باسم دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة في أبو ظبي وفي المؤتمر الوزاري ال13 لمنظمة التجارة العالمية، وأشكركم على هذا الحضور المهم والذي يعول عليه العالم في مواصلة حشد التوافق والجهود المشتركة لإعادة تشكيل مستقبل التجارة الدولية. السيدات والسادة، انطلاقاً من إدراك دولة الإمارات وقيادتها الرشيدة لأهمية التجارة المفتوحة والقائمة على قواعد شفافة وعادلة في تحقيق النمو الاقتصادي والتنمية الشاملة عالمياً، فنحن مستمرون في هذا النهج عبر المزيد من الانفتاح تجارياً واستثمارياً على العالم. نلتقي اليوم بالعاصمة الإماراتية أبو ظبي، المكان الأمثل لتحقيق الأهداف المرجوة من هذا المؤتمر، فمنذ تأسيسها حرصت دولة الإمارات على أن تكون نقطة التقاء وداعماً لتحقيق التوافق الدولي على الدوام. وتفتخر الإمارات بإرثها العريق وتاريخها الممتد الذي جعل منها مركزاً تجارياً محورياً يربط أرجاء العالم، واستمرارا لنهجها الدائم والمتواصل لدعم حرية التجارة. فقد أعلنت دولة الإمارات قبل يومين عن تقديمها منحة بقيمة 10 ملايين دولار لصناديق منظمة التجارة العالمية، وبالأخص صندوق تمويل اتفاقية دعم مصايد الأسماك، والإطار المتكامل المعزز لدعم البلدان الأقل نمواً، وصندوق دعم المرأة في مجال التصدير الذي تم إطلاقه خلال هذا المؤتمر. وهذه المنحة الإماراتية رسالة مهمة مفادها أن دولة الإمارات برؤية وتوجيهات قيادتها الرشيدة تواصل دعمها للنظام التجاري العالمي متعدد الأطراف الذي تشرف عليه المنظمة، باعتبارها محفزاً للنمو المستدام للاقتصاد العالمي ومساهماً في الارتقاء بحياة الشعوب حول العالم. الحضور الكريم، ندعوكم إلى إجراء حوار بناء بين أعضاء المنظمة للتوصل إلى رؤية متوافقة وموحدة فيما يخص القضايا التجارية الرئيسية، وبما يسهم في استخدام التجارة كوسيلة لتحفيز النمو الاقتصادي وخلق فرص العمل ورفع مستويات المعيشة لشعوب العالم. أشكركم، أتمنى لكم طيب الإقامة في العاصمة أبو ظبي، كما أتطلع بكل تفاؤل لما سيصدر عن المؤتمر من قرارات وتوصيات لتحقيق هدفنا المشترك، فلنوحد جهودنا من أجل ازدهار التجارة الدولية ورخاء العالم. وشكرا.
Our thanks to His Excellency Dr. Thani bin Ahmed Az-Zayudi for these remarks. And now, distinguished guests, please join me in welcoming Her Excellency Dr. Nguzi Okojo Iweala, the Director General of the World Trade Organization.
Your Highness Sheikh Khaled bin Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, Your Excellency President Azali Assoumani of the Union of the Comoros, Excellency President Jose Manuel Ramos Horta of the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste, Excellency Dr. Thani bin Ahmed Al Zayudi, Minister of State for Foreign Trade of the United Arab Emirates, and Chairperson of the 13th session of the WTO Ministerial Conference. Our MC13 Vice Chairs, Excellency Mr. Luke Magloire Mbaga Tagana, Minister of Trade of Cameroon, Excellency Honorable Todd Macleay, Minister for Agriculture, Forestry, Trade of New Zealand, Excellency Mr. Jorge Rivera Staff, Minister of Commerce and Industry of Panama, WTO General Council Chairperson Dr. Atalia Lesiba Molokome of Botswana, Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. We are honored at this opening session of the 13th WTO Ministerial Conference to be graced by the presence of His Highness Sheikh Khaled bin Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. On behalf of the World Trade Organization, we thank His Highness, the government and people of the United Arab Emirates, for hosting us in the land of tolerance, innovation, and inspiration. With its rich and vibrant trading culture, the United Arab Emirates and this beautiful city of Abu Dhabi provide the perfect setting for our ministerial conference. I would like to pay tribute to His Highness for inviting WTO ministers to be inspired and energized by the dynamism that this city has to offer. Thank you for the warm hospitality and exceptional arrangements that have been put together. The ADNEC sets an impressive stage for ministers to work towards concrete outcomes that deliver for people through trade. the appropriate theme that our hosts have chosen. The UAE's belief in an open, transparent, and rules-based multilateral trading system and in the power of trade to transform people's economic prospects is vividly seen in the evolution of its economy and society. Trade runs through this nation's blood. The UAE testifies to how trade can improve lives and livelihoods of people and transform a small and undiversified economy into a formidable, resilient, and prosperous one. 3 decades ago, the United Arab Emirates took the decision to integrate into the multilateral trading system by becoming a GATT contracting party. The UAE officially became a WTO member in April 1996 and has since become one of the world's most important international trade hubs. The United Arab Emirates is a trailblazer in international trade, and our MC13 chairman, His Excellency Dr. Thani bin Ahmed Al Zayudi, is the future of trade personified. Empowering youth as economic actors has been at the center of his work through various startups and businesses, big and small, working to stimulate innovation as a means for economic growth and social inclusion. Excellencies, the 13th session of the WTO Ministerial Conference could not be in more capable hands. With the UAE as our host, Minister Al-Zayudi as our chair, I'm hopeful that MC13 will be the success that people across the globe deserve during these uncertain and difficult times. On the eve of MC13, the UAE once again demonstrated its commitment to the multilateral trading system by contributing $10 million to 3 WTO trust funds, the Fisheries funding mechanism, the Enhanced Integrated Framework, and the Women Exporters in the Digital Economy Fund, which we launched yesterday, for the benefit of developing and least developed country members. The UAE was one of the first members to deposit its instrument of acceptance of the Agreement on Fisheries Subsidies. This support and leadership is much appreciated, and we thank His Highness and the government and people of the United Arab Emirates. I will conclude my remarks by once again expressing my profound appreciation to His Highness Sheikh Khaled bin Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, for being with us at this opening session. Your presence has provided us encouragement that we need to work harder, smarter, and work together to deliver meaningful outcomes for all our citizens through trade. So, WTO trade ministers, the UAE has set the stage for a successful conference. It is now your turn to build on it and to reach consensus on MC13 decisions and declarations that would help build a brighter future for global trade and a global economy that works for people everywhere. Thank you.
Our thanks to Her Excellency for these remarks. And with that, we would like to also dedicate our thanks to His Highness Sheikh Khaled bin Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, the Chairman of the Executive Council, for honoring us with his presence today at these opening proceedings at the WTO conference. Thank you very much, Your Highness. Thank you very much, Your Excellencies. Distinguished guests, let us now welcome Ambassador Santiago Wills, the Director of the WTO Council and Trade Negotiations Committee Division and Secretary of the 13th WTO Ministerial Conference, who will be facilitating the proceedings of this conference throughout the day. Please give him a welcome.
Can you speak right now?
Ambassador has been around for a long time, so he knows. Yeah, for 25 years.
Where are the
I worked my way up from just a young professional to the number 2 position, managing director. But in between, I went back to my country to be the finance minister, the foreign affairs minister, and then I came back. Well, congratulations. He's a nice person.
Yes.
Yeah, very nice.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and privilege to welcome back to the podium the WTO Director General, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, and invite her to address the Ministerial Conference.
Thank you, Santiago, Ambassador Wills. And I'm going to ask you to bear with me because I have a bit of a long speech, as you can imagine. 13th Ministerial Conference Chair, Excellency Dr. Thani bin Ahmed Al Zayudi, MC 13 Vice Chairs, General Council Chair Dr. Atalia Molokome, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 13th Ministerial Conference of the WTO. It's wonderful to be here in the UAE and in the Gulf region, which for centuries has been a vital crossroads for goods, people, and ideas. I want to start by thanking our hosts for their excellent cooperation throughout the months of preparation leading up to our gathering here in this spectacular venue. I'm grateful for their optimism, their enthusiasm, and their willingness to act fast. Minister Al-Zayudi has already been hard at work for months to lay the groundwork for a successful MC13, chairing virtual meetings of ministers and reaching out in person to the full membership, most recently at a special General Council in Geneva, not even up to 2 weeks ago. I thank him and the UAE delegation in Geneva, led by Ambassador Jamal Al-Musharak and the director of the UAE office to the WTO, Ambassador Abdusalam Mohamed Al-Ali, for their tireless efforts. Let me also thank ministers from the Gulf region who have been extremely supportive, and from the wider Arab group for taking on this ministerial as their own. All this support will hopefully help us deliver meaningful results here. I'm delighted to say that we are kicking off this meeting with some excellent news. Here at MC13, the WTO is welcoming its first new members in almost 8 years, Timor-Leste and Comoros. We celebrate the hard work they have put in and the beneficial but challenging reforms they have implemented at home. Both countries are least developed countries, and we are excited to see them reap the gains of membership as they become new members of the WTO. 22 more countries are seeking to follow in their footsteps. Many of them are present here as observers, including a sizable contingent from the Arab world. The opportunities they see in WTO membership and their commitment to the demanding accession process stand as an answer to anyone who questions the value that the WTO provides. Comoros and Timor-Leste will bring the WTO to 166 members, and we look forward to adding to that number in the years ahead. Some additional good news is that the number of acceptances of the Fisheries Subsidies Agreement will reach 70 this week. Several ministers have brought their legal instruments with them to Abu Dhabi, and we will be celebrating them later today. MC13 has helped drive forward ratifications. With the 70 we'll have this week, we'll now have 40 members to go, so that the countdown towards entry into force can start now in earnest. Those members yet to ratify, I have a list of you. You know who you are. I hope you can work fast to help us allow entry into force by my birthday on the 13th of June of this year, which will also mark 2 years since MC12. When we succeed, it will be the fastest entry into force of any WTO agreement, and I know we will. Excellencies, when we met in Geneva for MC12 almost 2 years ago now, my message to you was blunt. In keeping with my promise to bring a new pair of eyes and ears to the WTO, I told you what I was seeing and hearing from political and business leaders around the world, that the WTO needed to produce results, but expectations were very low that members could agree to anything. But you defied those expectations and beat the odds. You showed leadership. You invested political capital and you bridged gaps. You worked together to make MC12 a resounding success. Members delivered what was dubbed the miracle on Lake Geneva. 10 consensus multilateral outcomes with tangible benefits for people and the planet, and launched a comprehensive process of institutional reform. Members sent a powerful signal that the WTO can respond to contemporary challenges, and that in a world marked by strategic competition, we could also have strategic cooperation in pursuit of shared goals. Success is changing the tone about the WTO, both outside and within it. Yes, we will always have our naysayers and detractors, but there is no doubt that members have shown that we can deliver when members roll up their sleeves and muster the requisite political will. During the last several weeks, the atmosphere in our preparatory discussions in Geneva has been more constructive and conducive than it was in the run-up to MC12. And I thank ambassadors, ministers, and delegates for that. But as you can see from the documents sent to you, there's still a considerable amount of work to do. Ministers will have to roll up their sleeves once more to complete the work left over from Geneva. Whilst many of you empowered your ambassadors to make the necessary trade-offs during negotiations in Geneva, some of you did not. Hence, the important amount of work left for you to do. So our challenge this week is to prove that we can still deliver and demonstrate that MC12 wasn't a one-off miracle on Lake Geneva. We need to convert improved atmospherics into concrete results. We need to show the world that not only does the WTO underpin over 3/4 of global goods trade, it is also a forum where members deliver new benefits for people through trade. Let's not pretend that any of this will be easy. If we thought the world looked tough in mid-2022 when we were slowly emerging from the pandemic and the war in Ukraine had shaken food and energy security, we are in an even tougher place today. Looking around, uncertainty and instability are everywhere. Geopolitical tensions have worsened. Conflict has spread, as we see here in the Middle East, and away from the headlines across parts of Africa and the Arab world. We must not forget the conflict in Sudan, which has displaced close to 8 million people internally and across borders, or the conflict in the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Higher prices for food, energy, fertilizer, and other essentials continue to weigh on people's purchasing power, fueling political frustration. Shipping disruptions in vital waterways like the Red Sea and the Panama Canal are a new source of delays and inflationary pressure, offering a real-time reminder of the risks posed to global trade and output by security problems and the climate crisis. People everywhere are feeling anxious about the future, and this will be felt at the ballot box this year as 60-odd countries, home to nearly half of the world's population, go to the polls. Economic growth has lost pace, though it held up better than expected, particularly in some major economies like the United States and India, resulting in a softer landing for the global economy than earlier anticipated. However, there are places that are falling behind. The World Bank warns that the global economy is on track for its weakest 5-year performance in 30 years. In many developing countries, debt distress and high financing costs remain a drag on economic prospects. The pandemic ended a roughly 25-year-long trend during which, for the first time in centuries, poor countries began to narrow the income gap, separating them from rich ones. Several countries in Africa are already well into a lost decade and are in danger of falling even further back. We can be proud of the fact that trade itself has been resilient in recent years. Despite everything we have been through, global goods and services trade remain at or near record highs. International markets, anchored in the rules-based global trading system, have stayed broadly open, helping businesses, households, and economies adapt and adjust to one shock after the other. But it would be dangerously naive to take trade's continued resilience for granted. The global economic slowdown and wider uncertainty are already having an impact. Global merchandise trade volume growth in 2023 appears to have fallen short of the 0.8% we were projecting in October. And given all the downside risks, we may likely undershoot the 3.3% merchandise trade growth rate I just referred to for this year. In addition, multilateralism is under attack. Despite the MC12 fight back, The multilateral trading system, which I term a global public good since it was created 75 years ago, continues to be misconstrued in some quarters and undermined. Trade has become a 4 rather than a 5-letter word in some quarters. Yet, trade remains critical to delivering on so many national and global priorities, boosting growth, expanding economic opportunities, meeting the Sustainable Development Goals, and solving collective action problems like protecting our environment or preparing for the next pandemic. Without cooperation on trade, we would move towards an increasingly fragmented world economy, and all of these priorities would become harder, costlier, and in some cases, impossible to achieve. People would become more disappointed, more vulnerable, more frustrated. In light of these realities, we need the WTO to stand strong as it approaches its 30th anniversary. We need to keep reforming and reinvigorating the WTO so that it can deliver for trade in the years ahead, seizing the full potential of services and digital trade, accelerating trade for the green transition, and fostering socio-economic inclusion. We took important steps in the right direction at MC12. We have continued this work in Geneva under the aegis of the General Council, making significant advances on reform by doing. I'll come back to this shortly. But I want to thank ambassadors for these achievements. We need to build on these successes here in Abu Dhabi this week. This is why I'm excited about the deliberative sessions we have planned for ministers. This is something new that we're trying for the first time, and we very much view this as part of WTO reform. We have 2 deliberative sessions, one on trade and sustainable development in all its dimensions, social, environmental, and economic. With respect to the economic dimensions, issues of industrial policy and policy space will be important. The second session is on trade and inclusion. These sessions are intended to provide space for ministers to engage on issues at the center of contemporary economic debate and the intersections with the future of trade policy. Issues on which we need ideas and ways forward, even if they are not on the formal agenda. We have put questions to ministers to facilitate constructive discussions. These sessions are an experiment, one that I hope will go well so we can replicate that in future. Now let me look at some other issues before us on the table. At MC12, members delivered the first ever WTO agreement with environmental sustainability at its core. The Fisheries Subsidies Agreement fulfilled the mandate in Sustainable Development Goal Target 14.6 and contributed to several others, including Target 14.4, making fishing sustainable, and 14.2, restoring marine ecosystems. This week, ministers can finish the job by closing the loop on some outstanding issues relating to harmful subsidies that contribute to overcapacity and overfishing. We are well on our way to seeing the entry into force of Fish 1. Completion of Fish 2 and its rapid entry into force would really put WTO members at the forefront of action on sustainability of our oceans and would safeguard the livelihoods of the 260 million people who depend on these oceans. Let me take a moment here to thank the International Institute for Sustainable Development, the Pew Charitable Trust, the Stop Funding Overfishing Coalition, the Friends of Ocean Action, and other civil society groups for their analytical work to help us understand what is at stake and for the advocacy that has kept our feet to the fire. Ending the estimated $22 billion per year in harmful fisheries subsidies would free up resources that subsidizers can repurpose, whether to help people domestically or to help the wider world, such as through green financing for poor countries or to support for climate-related loss and damage. Turning now to agriculture. According to the FAO, nearly 10% of the global population is undernourished, 735 million people in 2022, over 120 million more than before the pandemic. Trade has helped bring global food prices down from record peaks. though poor households continue to face difficulties accessing food amid high domestic inflation. Our decisions at MC12 are making a difference. The World Food Programme has told us that the exemption from export restrictions which members approved has made it easier to procure and distribute food for those who need it. But as you know, at MC12, we were not able to deliver an outcome on updating the agriculture rulebook. Given the centrality of the issue, this week, I implore you to deliver an agriculture outcome at MC13, even if it's setting the platform to do better and more solid work going forward. Development is at the core of everything we do at the WTO, but developing countries have tabled some specific asks. The LDCs have been working for some years now on how to smoothen the transition of members graduating from this category, including the transition period over which they can still access special and differential treatment available to LDCs. I have good news for you on that an agreement on some of the LDC's asks, which ministers can hopefully bless in a ministerial decision, has been reached, while work continues on other aspects. There are also requests by the G90 group to look at special and differential treatment in some agreement-specific proposals, such as in technical barriers to trade and sanitary and phytosanitary measures agreements, which will no doubt require some discussion by ministers on the way forward to strengthen work on these issues in the Committee on Trade and Development in Special Session, CTDSS, in conjunction with the SPS and TBT committees. We know digital trade is the wave of the future. For years, the e-commerce moratorium has been extended, providing a measure of predictability to the global digital economy, now creating millions of jobs, especially for young people and women around the world. At the same time, some members have questioned the value of the moratorium and pointed to its impact on government revenue and the advantage it provides to big tech to consolidate power. A great deal of evidence-based work is now available that we hope will be helpful to ministers to enable them make the right decision. Now, for the topic you have probably been waiting for with bated breath, reform. Let me first highlight the important progress that has already been made on what delegates call reform by doing. Members have already moved ahead with over 100 small-scale measures, like digital tools for transparency and improved databases, that add up to more efficient and effective work in WTO councils, committees, and negotiating bodies, and easier participation for members, particularly for small delegations. Senior officials recognized the importance of these reforms when they met in Geneva last October. On the high priority issue of dispute settlement reform, ambassadors have heeded ministers' charge to work on delivering a full and well-functioning system accessible to all members by 2024. Ministers will be considering an important ministerial decision in this regard. Considerable work has been done and progress made through an informal process ably led by former Guatemala Deputy Permanent Rep Marco Molina, which has produced a draft consolidated text. Several members have also submitted critiques of this and their own papers as part of the work. But we are not there yet. I would like to thank the United States, indeed all members, and in particular Marco Molina for the progress made. That said, there are some members who would like to formalize the process under the dispute settlement body post-MC13, while other members, especially small economies and LDCs, have stated that they would like to find ways to participate more fully in the work going forward. I hope ministers will recognize the progress made through the various contributions and will instruct their teams in Geneva to accelerate discussions, build on progress, and work on unresolved issues, including appeal review and accessibility to achieve convergence and meet the MC12 mandate. Reforming dispute settlement is essential to our mandate as a multilateral organization that sets and enforces the global rules for trade. At the same time, I want to emphasize, Excellencies, that members are still using the dispute settlement system to resolve disputes, sometimes in very creative ways. The panel level is quite active, with 10 panels working on trade disputes and 9 ongoing bilateral consultations between members. 8 disputes have been recently settled bilaterally at the WTO, with 7 more in the process of resolution. Alternative mechanisms to resolve disputes were always available at the WTO, but now members are making more use of them, including through Article 25 arbitrations and the multi-party interim appeal arbitration arrangement. These important tools help ensure that WTO rules are being followed. In a fast-changing world, the WTO, as part of its reform, needs to operate with multiple instruments. Multilateral instruments continue to be the gold standard, but the WTO also has a proud tradition of some plurilateral arrangements. These include the Information Technology Agreement, which has removed tariffs on roughly $3 trillion worth of annual trade in products on which the digital economy depends, the Government Procurement Agreement, and now the Services Domestic Regulation Agreement. I'm grateful to India and South Africa and the EU for negotiating an approach that allowed the Services Domestic Regulation Agreement to go forward, paving the way for easier access to participating WTO members and economies by services providers from all WTO members. Ministers have an opportunity here to move forward on the plurilateral agreement on investment facilitation for development that has been negotiated by 126 members, the vast majority of them, 90 in fact, developing and least developed countries, hoping to use the agreement to attract much needed domestic and foreign investment. Before I conclude, Excellencies, let me say a word on what the Secretariat itself has been doing to underpin the issues members are grappling with. To preserve our multilateral trading system, the Secretariat has been doing cutting-edge work to estimate the cost of global economic fragmentation, and these costs are significant, signaling the need to work hard to maintain the system we have. Furthermore, in a world where the future of trade is services, digital, green, the Secretariat has done groundbreaking work on issues ranging from measuring trade in digitally delivered services to options for minimizing trade frictions associated with carbon pricing and fostering convergence in carbon standards for steel. We supported the UAE to organize a trade day at COP28, where we presented 10 trade policy options that members could leverage to amplify the impact of climate action. And because the future of trade also has to be more inclusive, we are working on the supply side to broaden access to international market opportunities for people and places left behind by globalization. Through our work, we are advocating for the decentralization and diversification of global supply chains to developing countries and regions left behind by the first wave of globalization. This is a concept we term re-globalization. It will help the world build resilience in supply chains whilst fostering inclusion. Other examples of work designed to foster inclusion is our partnership with the World Bank to bridge the digital divide in 8 pilot countries in Africa, with the International Finance Corporation to understand and plug trade finance gaps, and with the International Trade Center to create a $50 million fund to support women exporters in the digital economy. We want to thank our host, the UAE, and the Gulf countries for an excellent launch of this fund yesterday, with a initial contribution of $5 million by the UAE and more in the pipeline soon. The Secretariat is also working on a vision and strategy for the first time ever to guide its work till 2030. The Secretariat must be properly equipped to help members tackle 21st century issues. And in this regard, I want to thank members for approving a small budget increase for the Secretariat after 12 years of a flat nominal budget. Thank you. It was a morale booster for staff. Excellencies, let me conclude by coming back to the agenda of deliverables I described earlier. Can we get all of this or some of it done? The answer is yes. But we still need something I mentioned before, leadership. Leadership means you sometimes have to compromise on certain wants of yours so that others can secure their wants. We will need your leadership from every member, large and small, developing and developed, in order to succeed here in Abu Dhabi. I'm not for a moment suggesting that any member set aside national interests. I'm asking that members wield these interests with the flexibility that would enable us to deliver important outcomes, so we leave Abu Dhabi proud that we have a stronger WTO able to face the future and deliver for all members, all people, and the planet. Speaking at the end of the Bretton Woods Conference in 1944, U.S. Treasury Secretary Henry Morgenthau said, and I quote, "We have come to recognize that the wisest and most effective way to protect our national interests is through international cooperation. That is to say, through united effort for the attainment of common goals." He added that, quote, "The great lesson taught by the war is that the peoples of the earth are inseparably linked to one another by a deep underlying community of purpose." That is the lesson that we should not lose sight of. Excellencies, dear friends, let's get to work.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we will now proceed to the third segment of the opening session, which is the accession ceremonies of the Union of the Comoros and the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste. The MC13 chairperson will preside over both accessions.
Thank you, Ambassador. Excellencies, we'll now take up the accession of Comoros and Timor-Leste under Agenda Item 2, which is action by ministers. On behalf of all WTO members and observer delegations, it's a great privilege to welcome His Excellency President Azali Asmani of Comoros and His Excellency President Jose Manuel Ramos Horta of Timor-Leste to the 13th session of the WTO Ministerial Conference. The presence of both presidents at this meeting demonstrate not only their personal commitment, but also that of their respective countries to their domestic reform processes, furthering our common goal as embedding in the multilateral trading system under the WTO. It's an honor for me to welcome to this session the other members of the delegation of Comoros and Timor-Leste that are present, including His Excellency Mr. Ahmed Bazi, Minister of Economy and Investment and Chief Negotiator for the accession of Comoros, as well as Ministers of Agriculture and Post, Telecommunication and Digital Economy, and His Excellency Mr. Francesco Colbadi Lai, Vice Prime Minister, Coordinating Minister of Economic Affairs, Minister of Tourism and Environment, and Chief Negotiator for the accession of Timor-Leste, as well as the Speaker of the National Parliament, the Government of Central Bank, the Ministers of Interior, Transport, Communication and Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Forestries. Let us first take the accession of the Union of Comoros. I would like to recall that on the 9th of January 2024, the Working Party approved at referendum the accession package of the Union of Comoros. The report of the Working Party is now before the Ministerial Conference in documents WT/ACC/COM/51, WT/MIN 24/3, added agenda 1 and 2, and for consideration and adoption. In the absence of the chairman of the working group on the accession of the Union of Comoros, Ambassador Omar of Morocco, who unfortunately had to stay back in Geneva, I would like to invite the Deputy Director General of WTO, Mr. Zhang, to introduce the reports of the Working Party.
Your Excellency Dr. Thani bin Ahmed Al-Zuyudi, Chair of the Ministerial Conference, Your Excellency Mr. Azali Assoumani, President of Comoros, Your Excellency Mr. Hussein Ramos Horta, President of Timor-Leste, Honorable Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, I will deliver a statement on behalf of the Chairperson of the Working Party on the accession of the Union of Comoros. Ambassador Omar Zimba of Morocco, who had to stay in Geneva to chair the opening of the 55th session of the Human Rights Council. Completing a WTO accession process is a landmark moment. I wish to pay tribute to President Azali Assoumani for his leadership and commitment. I would also like to recognize the work of Comoros team of devoted negotiators, both in Mohini and in Geneva. The close involvement of Comoros lawmakers has also been critical to the process. I would also like to express my gratitude to WTO members who have shown flexibility and goodwill and have assisted Comoros in building technical capacity throughout the process. For Comoros, WTO membership holds the promise of faster economic growth, higher living standards, better jobs, and ultimately long-term stability and peace. WTO accession will also help consolidate the economic, structural, and institutional reform that are already underway. For the WTO, Comoros accession means a warm welcome to another least developed country into the multilateral trading system. This is a significant moment, which brings the organization even closer to becoming truly global and diverse. I hope that other candidate countries from the Arab and African regions, which remain relatively underrepresented in the multilateral trading system, can look up to Comoros for inspiration. Comoros' accession process began in October 2007 with the establishment of a working party. Comoros took several years to produce the initial set of documents required to launch the process. In 2016, the Working Party met for the first time. Speedy progress was registered in the years that followed. The process gradually gained momentum and reached full speed by early 2023. The 10th and final meeting of the Working Party was held in January of this year. The result of the accession negotiations are contained in the report of Working Party, WT/ACC/COM/51. The schedule of concessions and commitment on goods, WT/ACC/COM/51/81, and the schedule of specific commitment on services, WT/ACC/COM/51/82. The package of documents was adopted by the Working Party on an ad referendum basis at this meeting on 9th January 2024. A draft protocol of accession and a draft decision for the consideration of the Ministerial Conference, reproduced in an appendix to the report, were also approved by the meeting. By these actions, the Working Party completed its mandate and forwarded the documentation to the 13th Ministerial Conference for action. Once again, I would like to pay tribute to the efforts, goodwill, and the spirit of compromise shown by everyone involved in the process. In particular, I would like to thank Ambassador Luis Enrique Chavez Basacaidia of Peru, my predecessor as Working Party Chairperson, whose contribution was essential to the process. I would also like to place on record my appreciation to Director General Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala and the Secretariat, which, and her guidance, assist the delegation of Comoros and the WTO members throughout the process. This concludes the statement by the Working Party Chairperson. On behalf of the Secretariat, I would like to convey special thanks to Ambassador Oman Ziba for his active role as Chairperson of the Working Party and to the government of Morocco for its support throughout the process. With this word, on behalf of the Chairperson of the Working Party of the Accession of the Union of Comoros, I recommend the report of the Working Party and the draft decision for adoption and the draft protocol for approval by the Ministerial Conference. Thank you.
On behalf of the Ministerial Conference, I would like to thank Ambassador Omar for having served as a chairman of this working party for the last 3 years, as well as Deputy Director General Zhang for introducing the report of the working party. In the light of the report presented by Deputy Director General Zhang, I would like now to turn to the action by the Ministerial Conference on Comoros WTO accession in accordance with the decision-making procedures under Article 4 and 5 of the WTO agreement agreed in November 1995, WT/L/93. I therefore invite the Ministerial Conference to adopt the report of the Working Party as a whole in document WT/ACC/COM/51, WT/MIN 24/3, and its Agenda 1 and 2. Adopt the draft decision on the accession of the Union of the Comoros as appended to the report of the Working Party, and approve the draft protocol of accession of the Union of Comoros as also appended to the report of the Working Party. The Ministerial Conference so agrees. It gives me great pleasure to welcome the decision we have just taken on the accession of the Union of Comoros to the World Trade Organization. I would like to take this opportunity to extend my congratulations to His Excellency President Azali and his entire team, and to the people and government of the Union of Comoros. With regard to the further steps toward Comoros' formal entry as a WTO member, I would like to inform the Ministerial Conference that the signing ceremony of the accession protocol by President Azali and WTO Director General Her Excellency Dr. Ngozi will take place in this room immediately following the consideration of the accession of the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste. The government of the Union of Comoros will then submit the protocol for ratification by its Legislative Assembly. In keeping with WTO provisions, Comoros will become a member of the WTO 30 days following the deposit of instruments of acceptance of the protocol. It is with great pleasure that I would like now to invite His Excellency Azali Osmani, President of Union of Comoros, to proceed to the podium to address the Ministerial Conference. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Votre Altesse Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, émir d'Abu Dhabi et président des Émirats arabes unis, Excellence Monsieur José Ramos Horta, président de la République démocratique du Timor-Leste, Excellence Monsieur Thani bin Ahmed Al Zaidou, ministre d'État au commerce extérieur des Émirats arabes unis, président de la 13e conférence ministérielle de l'OMC, Madame Ngozi Okonjo, directrice générale de l'OMC et très chère sœur, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres, Mesdames et Messieurs les ambassadeurs, distingués invités et participants, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Je voudrais, à l'entame de mon propos, remercier mon frère, Son Altesse Cheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, président des Émirats arabes unis, pour l'accueil chaleureux et fraternel qui nous est réservé dans cette magnifique ville d'Abu Dhabi et pour les bonnes dispositions prises pour assurer la réussite de nos travaux. En ce moment précis qui consacre l'adhésion des Comores à l'OMC, je ressens une profonde et légitime émotion et pour cause, cela fait 17 ans que mon pays a formulé sa demande d'adhésion à cette importante organisation. Et cela fait 9 années depuis que mon gouvernement et moi-même menons des négociations difficiles pour atteindre cet objectif. Et voilà que Dieu a voulu que ce moment coïncide avec celui où, à la tête de l'OMC, se trouve une personnalité en tout point remarquable de notre continent, ma sœur, Madame Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, en qualité de directrice générale de l'OMC. Il se trouve aussi que ce grand événement se déroule dans un pays arabe, ami et frère des Comores, avec lequel j'entretiens les meilleures relations avec ses plus hauts dirigeants. Mais aussi, au moment où l'Afrique a décidé de mettre dans cette priorité la création de la zone de libre-échange continental africain, la ZLECAf, vous pouvez alors imaginer le grand plaisir que j'ai aujourd'hui à prendre part à cette cérémonie consacrant cette admission officielle. Altesse, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, le chemin visant à faire de l'Union des Comores le 165e membre de l'OMC est l'aboutissement d'un processus parsemé de concessions, de clarifications, d'engagements spécifiques, mais il a aussi et surtout été fait de volonté partagée, de coopération et de partenariat mutuellement bénéfiques. En effet, notre requête d'adhésion à l'OMC a été introduite il y a 17 longues années et sous mon impulsion, le gouvernement a présenté en 2016 l'aide-mémoire sur notre régime de commerce extérieur en vue de donner un souffle nouveau à ce processus. Ainsi, cette importante adhésion que nous célébrons aujourd'hui est l'aboutissement heureux de négociations intenses menées au sein du groupe de travail sur l'accession des Comores. Mesdames et Messieurs, honorables assistants, l'adhésion acquise, nous entamons dorénavant la phase la plus essentielle, celle de la mise en œuvre des engagements en vue de permettre à l'Union des Comores de jouir pleinement des opportunités offertes par le commerce international, mais aussi d'apporter sa pierre à l'édifice. Il s'agira de mobiliser les partenaires au développement autour des besoins en assistance technique et des ressources financières nécessaires pour conduire les réformes permettant de nous conformer aux règles multilatérales du commerce et aux meilleures pratiques en la matière. Il s'agira également de développer une bonne stratégie de communication en vue d'une appropriation effective de ce nouveau statut par le peuple comorien. Notre conviction est que l'adhésion des Comores à l'OMC sera immensément bénéfique à toute notre économie aux entreprises privées et publiques et aux consommateurs. Elle contribuera aux efforts de diversification des partenariats commerciaux de notre pays, à son intégration dans les chaînes de valeur régionales, continentales et mondiales. Avec l'adhésion à l'OMC, mon pays poursuivra ses objectifs de développement durable et d'éradication de la pauvreté, notamment en accélérant les investissements dans des secteurs stratégiques tels que l'agriculture, le tourisme, l'environnement, le secteur maritime et l'économie numérique. D'ores et déjà, des réformes entreprises dans le cadre de ce processus ont généré des résultats tangibles. À titre d'illustration, notre dispositif juridique et réglementaire ainsi que nos politiques ont été progressivement adaptés aux meilleurs standards internationaux. Pour sa part, le secteur privé aspire à un régime commercial plus prévisible et plus transparent, aussi avec la plateforme offerte par le système commercial multilatéral. Notre nation insulaire pourra-t-elle faire valoir sa voix au même titre que ses partenaires commerciaux internationaux? Cette adhésion renforcera encore davantage la visibilité de l'Union des Comores sur la scène internationale après la présidence comorienne de l'Union africaine qui vient juste d'arriver à son terme. Cela dit, mon pays en tant que nation, dont l'ambition est de parvenir à l'émergence à l'horizon 2030, suivant une transformation structurelle de l'économie, pourra également apporter une grande contribution à l'édifice de l'OMC. D'abord, par son appartenance à plusieurs communautés économiques régionales et à des organisations internationales telles que l'ONU, l'Union africaine, la francophonie, la Ligue arabe et j'en passe. Ensuite, parce que cette nouvelle donne intervient dans un contexte de mise en œuvre de l'ASLECAF qui sera bénéfique aux partenaires commerciaux régionaux comme internationaux au pays. En effet, la Banque mondiale estime que la mise en œuvre de réformes ambitieuses entraînerait la hausse de l'investissement privé de 13% du PIB d'ici 2030. Et c'est pourquoi mon gouvernement fera de l'attraction des investissements directs étrangers une priorité pour favoriser la réalisation de ces performances macroéconomiques. En outre, en application des règles de l'OMC, des réformes seront engagées dans le secteur des services pour attirer les idées et favoriser une concurrence saine au profit des consommateurs et des producteurs. Honorable assistance, Mesdames et Messieurs, mon pays doit son adhésion à l'OMC à la volonté, à l'accompagnement d'acteurs nationaux comme internationaux, à qui je rends un hommage appuyé pour le soutien indéfectible. Je pense en priorité au premier président du groupe de travail, l'ambassadeur de Pérou, dont la mission est arrivée à terme avant la conclusion des négociations. Nous le remercions pour le professionnalisme et la détermination avec lesquels il a conduit ces négociations. À son successeur, M. Omar Zniber, ambassadeur du Royaume du Maroc et à Genève, je dis un grand merci du fond du cœur pour son engagement fraternel, sa détermination sans faille et son remarquable professionnel. Je tiens à souligner que, fort des instructions de mon frère, Sa Majesté le roi Mohamed VI, l'ambassadeur Zniber a traité le dossier comorien comme s'il s'agissait de celui de son propre pays et notre équipe comme sa propre famille, y compris l'ambassadeur Sultan Chouzour. Bien évidemment, on doit aussi énormément le succès de ces négociations à ma très chère sœur, Madame Ngozi, au Congo. directrice générale de l'OMC, qui s'y est personnellement investie, et notamment à travers ses conseils avisés et ses pertinentes recommandations. Je demande à l'applaudir. À vous, Madame la Directrice générale, et à vos équipes dévouées, notamment la division des accessions du secrétariat, j'exprime mes sincères remerciements et ma profonde reconnaissance. Sachez que le gouvernement comorien est très fier de cet acquis majeur et s'engage à poursuivre sa collaboration fructueuse avec l'OMC en vue de traduire en actes concrets le résultat de ces négociations. Et c'est pourquoi je suis particulièrement heureux de signer au nom de mon pays le protocole d'accession avec vous en attendant sa ratification qui suivra dans le courant du premier semestre de cette année. Je salue également le travail exceptionnel et le dévouement du gouvernement comorien en faveur de cette accession, en particulier les différents ministères de tutelle, ainsi que leurs équipes respectives et l'ambassadeur de l'Union des Comores à Genève, M. Sultan Chouzour. J'ai fait de l'adhésion de l'Union des Comores une priorité de premier plan, et c'est pourquoi je tiens à renouveler la gratitude de mon gouvernement, du peuple comorien, à l'ensemble de nos partenaires bilatéraux que multilatéraux que nous ont soutenus tout au long de ce processus. Et je voudrais vous rassurer de la disponibilité entière de mon gouvernement à poursuivre cet esprit de dialogue et de coopération dans le cadre de ce partenariat promoteur que nous venons de sceller ici à Abu Dhabi. Mesdames et Messieurs, honorables assistants, je ne peux clore mon propos tout d'abord sans féliciter mon frère, le président José Ramos Horta, pour l'accession de son pays à l'OMC et lui souhaiter bonne chance dans les actions futures à mener pour faire de ce grand acquis un vrai levier de croissance économique pour le Timor-Leste. Je ne peux clore mon propos, enfin, sans vous dire, mon frère, Cheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, ma profonde gratitude, ainsi que celle du peuple comorien pour la grande amitié que vous avez pour notre pays et son peuple. En nous faisant l'honneur, Monsieur le Président, d'abriter cette cérémonie aussi historique pour nous Comoriens dans la splendide ville d'Abu Dhabi, vous continuez de traduire en actes concrets votre bienveillance et votre générosité envers l'Union des Comores et son peuple. Soyez-en vivement remerciés, tout comme l'ensemble du peuple frère des Armates Unis. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
On behalf of the Ministerial Conference, I would like to express my warmest appreciation to President Azali for his address. I would now like to take up the accession of the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste. I would like to recall that on the 11th of January 2024, the Working Party approved a referendum the accession package of Timor-Leste. The report of a working party is now before the Ministerial Conference in document WT/AC/TLS/34 WT/MIN24/4 and Addenda 1 and 2 for consideration and adoption. I would like to invite the Chairperson of the Working Party of the Accession of Timor-Leste, Ambassador Roy of Portugal, to introduce the report of the Working Party. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Your Excellency, Dr. Tani bin Ahmed Al Zayed, Chair of the Ministerial Conference, Your Excellencies, Mr. Azali Asuman,
President of Comoros, Your Excellency Mr. José Ramos Horta, President of Timor-Leste, Your Excellency Deputy Prime Minister Mr. Francisco Cabo Alilai of Timor-Leste, Honorable Ministers, Director General, General Council Chairperson, distinguished delegates and guests, ladies and gentlemen. As Chair of the Working Party on the accession of the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste, I am honored to present the accession package of Timor-Leste and to report on the conclusions and recommendations of this package. The Working Party was established in December 2016 to examine Timor-Leste's request for WTO accession. Since its first meeting held in October 2020, in the midst of the COVID pandemic, the Working Party has a total of 7 meetings, with the final meeting held just last month, concluding the accession negotiations in a record time of 3 years and 3 months. This impressive achievement is the result of Timor-Leste's strong commitment and members' unshaken support to this LDC accession. The results of the negotiations constituting the terms of accession are contained in the following documents. The report of the Working Party, circulated in document WT/ACC/TLS/34, WT/MIN24/4, the schedules of concessions and commitments on goods, contained in document WT/ACC/TLS/34 Add 1, and WT/MIN24/4 Add 1, and the schedule on specific commitments on services contained in documents WT/ACC/TLS/34 Add 2, and WT/MIN24/4 Add 2. This package was adopted ad referendum by the Working Party at its final meeting held on the 11th of January 2024. The adopted report contains in its appendix the draft decision for the Ministerial Conference and the draft protocol of accession. The protocol incorporates by reference the specific commitments undertaken by Timor-Leste in the report of the Working Party. By this action, the Working Party completed its mandate and forwarded the document to the 13th Ministerial Conference for action. Mr. Chairman, during the course of the accession negotiations, Timor-Leste has done impressive work in a number of areas. This includes the adoption of WTO consistent legislation, with over 330 legal pieces being notified to the Working Party, setting a new standard for other accessions. Timor-Leste has also undertaken several first-exceeding LDC commitments in areas such as the Information Technology Agreement, Services Domestic Regulation, and Fisheries Subsidies Agreement, making a significant contribution to strengthening the rules-based multilateral trading system. It is my assessment that this accession package has set a clear roadmap for sustained domestic reform in Timor-Leste to promote economic growth, stability, and peace. Before I conclude, I would like to recognize the political leadership provided by President José Ramos Horta throughout this process. He even participated in a few Working Party meetings. His vision that WTO membership is a stepping stone for Timor-Leste's goal to join ASEAN has served as a key driving force in the process. I would like to pay tribute to Timor-Leste's devoted and committed team under the chief negotiation, Deputy Prime Minister Francisco Cabo Alilai, who led the process in the final critical stage, and Minister Joaquim Amaral, who led before that. This team has done an exemplary job, working often around the clock in Dili and in Geneva, especially during the final months. Our members also deserve a lot of credit. They supported and worked hard with Timor-Leste, demonstrating goodwill and pragmatism to overcome challenges and enable the smooth conclusion in the accession process. I would also like to place on record my deep appreciation to Director General Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala and the WTO Secretariat, particularly the Accessions Division, who played a key role in the process. In closing, in my capacity as Chair of the Working Party of the Accession of Timor-Leste, I have the privilege to recommend the report of the Working Party and the drafted decision for adoption and the draft protocol for approval by the Ministerial Conference. I thank you.
On behalf of the Ministerial Conference, I would like to thank Ambassador Roy for having served as a chairman of this working party for the last 5 years. I would like now to turn an action by the Ministerial Conference on Timor-Leste's WTO accession in accordance with the decision-making procedures under Article 9 and 12 of the WTO agreement agreed in November 1995, WT/L/93. I therefore invite the Ministerial Conference to adopt the report of the Working Party as a whole in the document WT/ACC/TLS/34, WT/MIN24/4 and its addenda 1 and 2. Adopt the draft decision on the accession of the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste as appended to the report of the Working Party, and approve the draft protocol of accession of the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste is also appended to the report of the Working Party. The Ministerial Conference so agrees. It gives me a great pleasure once again to welcome the decision we have just taken, this time on the accession of the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste to the World Trade Organization. I would like to take this opportunity to extend my congratulations to His Excellency President Jose and his entire team, and to the people and government of Timor-Leste. Excellencies, the decision we have just taken on the accession of Comoros and an island LDC in Africa, and accession of Timor-Leste, an island and LDC in Asia, testifying to the world's confidence in the WTO and multilateral trading system. I strongly believe that through their future membership in WTO, both Comoros and Timor-Leste will have stable and predictable frameworks for economic engagement with other nations, which will boost trade, growth, and prosperity. With regard to the further steps toward Timor-Leste's formal entry as a WTO member, as in the case of Comoros, the signing ceremony will take place immediately following this session. The government of the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste will then submit the protocol for ratification by its legislative assembly. Timor-Leste will become a member of the WTO 30 days following the deposit of instrument of acceptance of the protocol. With these words, it is with great pleasure that I would now like to invite His Excellency Jose Manuel Ramos, the President of the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste, to proceed to the podium to address the Ministerial Conference. Sir, you have the floor.
Excellency Chairperson of the 13th Ministerial Conference, Dr. Thani bin Ahmed, Excellency Dr. Ngozi Okonjo, Director General WTO, Excellencies Ministers, Excellency, Monsieur le Président de la République des Comores, pays frère. We are situated in the Indian Ocean. Je vous félicite chaleureusement de ces acquis d'adhésion à l'OMT. My warmest greetings to my President of my national parliament, the Deputy Prime Minister, and ministerial colleagues, members of parliament, who took the time to come to this event. I warmly thank the host country and authorities, as well as WTO conference organizers, for the warm reception accorded to me and my delegation. I warmly congratulate the host government and WTO Secretariat for the successful preparation of this ministerial conference, a historic moment for my country as we inch towards integrating into the global economy and trade. Our Prime Minister, Xanana Guzmão, founding father of the country, would have been most pleased to be here leading the Timor delegation, but with a full domestic agenda, he asked me to be here today. I'm accompanied by the President of National Parliament, Dr. Fernanda Lai. I wish to add that we have 34% of our members of Parliament are women. Many of the cabinet members, the most important ones, are actually women also. In my own office, the second person in charge, chef de cabinet, the third person in charge, and the fourth person in charge are all women. And also with us, with me, Deputy Prime Minister for Economic Development Coordination, His Excellency Francisco Lai. They all work very hard for us to be here today. We of Timor-Leste, the newest country in Asia, are strong believers in regional and international economic integration, the multilateral trading system, in particular ASEAN, in our region. Timor-Leste obtained our first WTO observer status in December 2016. So today, I and the whole delegation are overwhelmed with joy to be witnesses as WTO members officially adopt our accession package, sealing Timor-Leste official membership in the organization. Timor-Leste WTO membership marks a major step towards trade liberalization, integration in the global economy, access to international markets. Membership helps leverage the ongoing improvements in our infrastructure, human capital development, administrative capacity, growth, and economic diversification. The support extended by the international community enables us to undertake institutional reforms, adopt adequate legislation, enabling bureaucracy, administration simplification, enhancing human resources, expanding infrastructure development, thus aligning with WTO principles. My deepest appreciation for the active engagement of WTO Secretariat under the visionary, steady leadership of the Director General, Dr. Ngozi. I have had the privilege in meeting the DG on several occasions in different cities, in different countries in the world. When Dr. Ngozi demonstrated her unequal leadership, I thank you, Director General, for being such a strong advocate for WTO accession, as you are a strong advocate for the multilateral system of cooperation. This accession today contributes to Timor-Leste's ASEAN membership, which we hope will take place in 2025. My special thanks go also to members of Timor-Leste Working Party, chaired by Ambassador Rui Macieira of Portugal. Muito obrigado, caro amigo, Rui Macieira, for their exceptional commitment in support of our accession towards the end of this current phase of our accession journey. Some words of recognition are due to Timor-Leste permanent representative to the UN in Geneva, Ambassador Lourdes Bessa, for her tireless leadership, hard work, and of her mission staff. I am particularly pleased that our WTO accession is taking place in Abu Dhabi, birthplace of Sheikh Zayed, who unified the peoples of the Emirates. He dreamed of and built a country that is today a beacon of human fraternity and peace. And in pursuing this dream, he unified the Emirates, founded the United Arab Emirates, and it was here that the historic Declaration of Human Fraternity, co-authored by His Holiness Papa Francisco and the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, Cairo, Professor Ahmad Tayeb, was signed on 19 October 2019. The dream of Sheikh Zayed, his legacy, is continuing with His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, President of the United Arab Emirates. So it couldn't be more symbolic, significant that we are here today. Timor-Leste accession in itself is bringing benefits to the country, and we expect that further benefits will materialize in due course. Being a member is essential to unleash the potential of our economy in several sectors. We are committed to diversify our economy, become a part of the value chain of global economies, to improve the well-being of our people through trade. But we all face challenges and opportunities, but the challenges are far too great and complex for us in the LDC, SEEDS, G7 fragile states. Some challenges are common to much of the world. Challenges related to climate change, unstable weather patterns, highly infectious global pandemics, outbreak of armed conflicts, unmanaged global rivalries, some of which have escalated into catastrophic wars unseen in decades, with obvious impact on the global economy, causing catastrophic supply chain disruption, rising costs of basic commodities, and impoverishing further the hundreds of millions living in abject poverty at the world's edge, at the edge of the world. In addition, as if the global landscape is not sufficiently dark, an extremely worrying challenge is the global debt crisis, which stands today at US $313 trillion in 2023. This, according to the latest report of the International Institute of International Finance. This represents 330% of global GDP, of which 55% are from developed markets. Excellencies, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, we, the international community, we seem to be sleepwalking right into another financial meltdown, which could be far worse than all previous ones. Timor-Leste debt, our debt is a mere 13%, and none to commercial banks. We have a highly praised, well-managed sovereign fund. In the midst of the above-mentioned challenges, opportunities may arise also, and we must know how to seize these opportunities for our benefit. Small economies must find ways to complement each other to enhance our respective economies through joint investments, joint ventures, and trade. However, G7 and G20 countries, commercial banks, holding developing countries' debt, should have written off the entire global debt of developing countries. In addition, new financial mechanisms should have been created or should be created in the order of $1 trillion every 3 years to support green economies, renewable energy transitions, primary education and primary health care, agriculture, food security, clean water, sanitation, global vaccination programs to end preventable illnesses, support for women during pregnancy and after, support programs towards elimination of child malnutrition and stunting, child labor and child slavery, support for women in rural areas, and support small to medium-sized women's businesses. Anything less would be band-aid. Can the international community mobilize these funds needed? Yes, we can. A combination of governments, banks, public and private sector, the billionaires of the world. After all, at each crisis, the 2008-2009 subprime and other financial crises, and for the ongoing wars, particularly Gaza and Ukraine, and many other wars, hundreds of billions of dollars have been found to fund unwinnable wars. So let's rise to the ethical, moral challenge and invest in the most just, necessary war, a clearly winnable war, the war against extreme poverty. In closing, my country continues to count on members and partners' support during the post-accession phase. As an LDC, we recognize our weaknesses and need for tailored support to leverage domestic reforms harmonized with the WTO rules and regulations. As a new member, we will continue to learn from our older peers with the hope to bring in additional values, thus contribute to further strengthen the cooperation between our nations. Last but not least, a boutique Timor Cafe is right outside. Timor-Leste, besides some oil and gas, we have the best coffee in the world. I know some here, Colombians, Panamanians, Costa Ricans, Brazilians, Papua New Guinea, Jamaica, Kenya, Ethiopia, they all would disagree with my claims. But let me tell you one thing. Papa Francisco, he drinks only Timor coffee. So, I advise you all also to drink only Timor coffee. May God the Almighty and the Merciful bless us all. Thank you.
On behalf of the Ministerial Conference, I would like to express my warmest appreciation to President Jose Manuel Ramos Horta for his address. I would now invite my dear sister, Her Excellency Dr. Ngozi, the Director General of the WTO, to add her own words of welcome. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Excellency MC13 Chair. This is a very, very wonderful moment for me, and I know for all of us. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so delighted and touched to join the MC13 Chair in congratulating the governments and peoples of Comoros and Timor-Leste, and in welcoming them as new members of our WTO family, bringing our total membership to 166. Woo! It is wonderful that President Azali Assoumani of Comoros and President Jose Ramos Horta of Timor-Leste are present here. Both of them were absolutely pivotal in bringing their respective countries' accession processes to the finish line. Without their personal involvement and their dedication, we could not have done it. To the officials from both countries who have been working tirelessly for years now, I offer my congratulations, my gratitude, and my encouragement. Although this might not be what you want to hear right now, this is just the beginning, but it's a very, very good beginning. But before I go further, I want to thank the chairpersons of the two working parties, Ambassador Omar Znibir of Morocco, who unfortunately cannot be with us today, and Ambassador Rui Maceira of Portugal. Without their dedication and leadership, today's accession would not have been possible. And of course, special credit also goes to WTO members, particularly members of the working parties. and to the Secretariat teams who were supporting them, ably led by the Accession Division. Today's achievements are truly a collective endeavor, one we can all be proud of. Accessions have always been a barometer of confidence in the WTO and the rules-based multilateral trading system. It is encouraging that despite all the challenges facing multilateral cooperation today, our organization is continuing to move towards universality. A diverse array of countries continue to link their own growth and future prosperity to the WTO's core values of openness, transparency, good governance, and the rule of law. I hope that Comoros and Timor-Leste will serve as inspiration for the 22 governments waiting to join, especially other LDCs and fragile and conflict-affected states. I said before that accession is a beginning. The benefits of WTO membership are not automatic, and our new members will need a support network to continue domestic reforms and to operate effectively in the global economy. The Secretariat is already stepping up its assistance in this regard, and it is my sincere hope that the rest of the members will provide technical assistance and supply-side support to accompany these two LDCs in the post-accession phase. Finally, as I said in my opening remarks, it has been 8 years since we last welcomed members, the longest gap yet. I hope we are not going to wait 8 more years. Not if I have anything to do with it. Comoros and Timor-Leste have demonstrated that countries facing daunting and unique challenges can overcome them with political will and determination on the part of acceding governments, together with adequate support from the international community. International organizations and development partners can make an important difference here by offering enhanced and coordinated technical assistance and capacity building to countries seeking to join the WTO. The two heads of state here are both presidents with whom I have worked closely. And in the case of President Ramos Horta, as he said, we've known each other for quite some time. I really want to say a special thank you to them for persevering and to their staff, because if not for their belief, we wouldn't have been able to get here. On behalf of the membership and the organization, I'm delighted to say to Comoros and Timor-Leste, Karibu and Benvindo, welcome. And let's all try to make joining the WTO even more special by delivering results here in Abu Dhabi this week. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. This is indeed a very positive moment for the organization. I believe that members would like to express their welcome to both Comoros and Timor-Leste. However, due to the time constraint, if any member wishes to convey any congratulations remark, I invite you to provide your written statement to the Secretariat to be reflected in the official record. I invite everyone to remain seated as we proceed with the signing ceremonies by the Presidents of Comoros and Timor-Leste with the WTO Director General.
Congratulations once again to Comoros and Timor-Leste on this milestone. As just announced by the MC13 Chairperson, we will now proceed to the signing ceremonies of the Protocols of Accession. We will start with the signing ceremony for the Protocol of Accession of the Union of the Comoros, presided by the Director General. Let me invite His Excellency President Azali Assoumani to join the Director General at the signing table. I now invite the Director General to proceed with the signing ceremony. Let us now turn to the signing ceremony for the Protocol of Accession of the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste, presided by the Director General. I'd like to invite the Deputy Prime Minister, accompanied by His Excellency President José Manuel Ramos Horta, to join the Director General at the signing table. I now invite the Director General to proceed with the signing ceremony. Excellencies, distinguished guests, this concludes the accession ceremonies segment. Let us now proceed to the final segment of the opening session, which is the ceremony on the deposit of instruments of acceptance of the Fisheries Subsidies Agreement. Let me therefore invite the Director General to address the Ministerial Conference on this important matter.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, I'm pleased to announce that today there will be 9 members who will be depositing their instruments of acceptance. They will be part of the growing number of ratifiers, together with those who ratified this year: Cabo Verde, Barbados, Dominica, Senegal, Uruguay, and most recently Haiti. As I said, the number we're going to have this week is 70, because there are 1 or 2 ratifiers who will not be giving their instrument today, but tomorrow or next. We have made substantial progress, and we have been successfully able to use this ministerial as a hook for trying to get members to ratify. Not because we're just interested in ratification for its sake, but because we're dealing with an opportunity to help improve the sustainability of our oceans. So I'm very grateful to all the countries, the 70 countries who would have ratified by the end of MC13. I'm also grateful to all those who have taken the opportunity to support the Fisheries Fund, which is designed to assist developing members to implement the disciplines in the Fisheries Subsidies Agreement, Part 1. And the most recent deposit has come from the Republic of Korea with a contribution of $1 million to the funding mechanism. Actually, the most recent is from the UAE, which has deposited also $1 million to the mechanism. So I want us to give them a round of applause. And now, to deposit their instruments today, I have the pleasure to announce the names of the following countries, and I'd like the ministers to come one by one. Let me announce the names first of those who are depositing: Saudi Arabia, Brunei Darussalam, Chad, Rwanda, Togo, Turkey, Malaysia, Norway, Uruguay. So we will start with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
سيدنا أنت.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy.
I will now invite the head of delegation of Brunei Darussalam. I now invite the head of delegation of Malaysia. I'll now invite the head of delegation of Chad. We'll come back to Chad. I'll now invite the delegation of Norway. I'll now invite the head of delegation of Rwanda. I'll now invite the head of delegation of Togo. I'll now invite the head of delegation of Turkey. I now invite the head of delegation of Uruguay. So congratulations once again to all our new depositors of instruments of acceptance. Let me now invite the ministers of heads of delegation of WTO members who have deposited their instruments of acceptance to come to the stage for a family photo.